It was Christmas Eve, and the world outside glittered with lights, cheer, and celebration, but not in my hospital room. I lay there under harsh fluorescent lights, the sterile air doing nothing to ease the gnawing pain in my abdomen or the deeper ache in my heart. The monitor beside me beeped in a slow, steady rhythm, almost like it was mocking how fragile everything felt. In the corner of the room, my 2-year-old twins, Noah and Lily, were crouched on the tile floor, giggling softly as they stacked colorful plastic blocks. Their innocence was the only warmth in that cold, colorless room. Now and then, they looked over to me with expectant smiles, too young to understand that their mother was terrified. The doctor had just confirmed it: internal bleeding. They were rushing to prep me for emergency surgery. The pain was excruciating, like my insides were slowly being twisted apart. But worse than the physical agony was the emotional one, because I knew I couldn't go through this alone. It had been 6 months since Daniel, my husband, my safe place, was taken from us in a car crash. I'd barely been functioning since. My body kept moving, kept feeding the kids and paying the bills, but my heart had stopped the day his did. And now I was crumbling. With trembling fingers, I clutched my phone and did the only thing I could think of. I called my parents. My mother answered after a few rings. Her face filled the screen for a second before the camera swung to reveal a party scene, sparkling lights, drinks in hand, laughter in the background. I could barely hear her. "Mom," I began, swallowing hard. "I'm in the hospital. It's serious. I need someone to watch the kids. They're prepping me for surgery." She blinked. "What?" I raised my voice. "I'm bleeding. Internally. I need help with the twins." She looked off-screen and rolled her eyes. "Don't you dare ask us to cancel our plans again. We've had these Elton John tickets for months." "Months, Selena." My mouth went dry. I could die.
"We're not doing this," she snapped.
Every time something happens, you expect the world to stop. Maybe if you planned your life better, you wouldn't be in this situation. Then she hung up. I stared at the screen in disbelief. The call ended just like that. No goodbye. No offer of help. Nothing. I looked over at my babies. Lily toddled toward me and tugged at the hospital blanket, her eyes wide and curious. "Blue block," she babbled. I scooped her into my arms, blinking away the tears that were now blurring everything. "It's okay, baby. Mommy's okay." But I wasn't. Not even close. That call shouldn't have surprised me, but it still felt like someone had carved a fresh wound into my chest. My entire life, I had been the afterthought, the mistake they tolerated. My younger sister Claire was always the perfect one, cheer captain, top of her class, the daughter they showed off. I was the one they told to tone it down, to stop being so dramatic, to stop asking for so much. Even after Daniel's death, they showed up late to the funeral and left early. And still, I sent them money. $2,500 every month, like clockwork. Ever since they'd taken early retirement, they'd guilt me into it. "You make more than enough," they'd say. "It's the least you can do after everything we sacrificed."
But now,
when I needed them the most, I was just an inconvenience. Valerie, my nurse, walked in, her expression soft as she glanced from the monitors to my face. "They're prepping the ore," she said gently. Then she looked over at the twins. "Is anyone coming to stay with them?" I opened my mouth, then shook my head. "No," I said quietly. "No one's coming." Valerie paused. Her face shifted into something else, compassion mixed with resolve. She pulled out her phone. "Give me a moment," she said, then stepped outside. A few minutes later, she returned. "I called someone. Her name's Olivia. She's trauma-trained, works with families in crisis. She'll be here in 10 minutes. I tried to speak, but the gratitude caught in my throat. I just nodded. "Thank you." I turned to my babies again, and something deep inside, something long dormant, began to stir. A quiet, sharp clarity. Maybe it was the painkillers. Maybe it was the betrayal. But in that moment, as the nurse placed a clipboard in front of me with surgery consent forms, I knew something had changed. I wasn't going to beg anymore. I picked up my phone with a new kind of determination. I opened my banking app. My thumb hovered for a moment, then I canceled the automatic monthly transfers. Then, I opened my text messages and wrote a final message. I hope you enjoy your concert. As of today, I am no longer your provider, your backup plan, or your emotional punching bag. Merry Christmas. I hit send. And with that, a strange kind of peace settled in. It didn't come from revenge. It came from the release. Not because I had stopped loving them, but because, finally, I had started loving myself.
The surgery went well, they said.
A success. But no one prepares you for what recovery feels like. Not just the soreness in your muscles or the rawness in your stomach. It's the loneliness, the aching fatigue of having to be strong again when you have nothing left to give. I woke up groggy, my throat dry. My vision blurred as I blinked, trying to find my bearings. And then I saw her. Olivia. She was sitting in the corner of the hospital room, gently rocking Lily, who had fallen asleep on her chest. Noah was curled up in a portable crib beside her, snoring softly. "You're okay?" Olivia whispered when she noticed I was awake. "They're okay. We're all okay." Tears welled in my eyes before I could stop them. I had known her for less than a day, and yet in that moment, she felt like the most trustworthy person in the world. Over the next few days, Olivia never left our side. She made sure the twins were fed, cleaned, and happy. She spoke softly, moved carefully, never overstepped, but always knew what we needed. When I was discharged and wheeled into the apartment, it was Olivia who carried the bags. She had stocked the fridge. She had cleaned the living room. Bottles were lined up next to the sink. A fresh pack of diapers waited near the changing table. She even plugged in my heating pad and set it near the couch. That night, after the twins were asleep, I sat on the couch in the dark, just listening to the quiet. The apartment had never felt this still, this safe. I picked up my phone. 27 missed calls. My inbox was full of voicemails, texts. But they weren't messages of concern. Not really. My mother had written, "We deserve more respect after everything we've done for you." My father wrote, "So you're just cutting us off? Like strangers?" Claire's message, though, was different. "Is this true? Are you okay? Call me, please." I stared at her message for a long time before replying. The surgery was not minor. It was internal bleeding. I could have died. No one showed up. You were told it wasn't serious. That was a lie. I hit send. And for the first time in years, I felt like I didn't need their version of love anymore. I had my babies. I had my breath. I had my strength. And that would be enough. She responded instantly. "Wait, what? Mom told me you were having a routine cleaning or something. I had no idea you were in the hospital." And for once, I believed her. There was something raw in Jessica's message. No polish, no defensiveness, no fake sympathy. Just shock. It sounded like someone who had just been blindsided by a truth they weren't prepared for. That night, after the twins were asleep and Olivia had gone home to rest, Jessica and I spoke on the phone. Spoke. It had been years since our conversations felt real and unfiltered. But that night, everything cracked open. She listened, really listened. Not the passive kind where you wait for your turn to talk, but the kind that makes you realize someone is finally hearing you. When I told her I'd been sending our parents money, $500 every month since their early retirement, totaling over $90,000, there was a long silence on the line. Then, her voice broke. "They told me you were doing great. That you offered. That you wanted to help. I didn't know it was like that." Neither of us had the full truth. We were both fed versions of the story that suited them. That kept us divided. The next morning, something in me shifted again. A deeper layer of clarity peeled back. I needed to take action, not just emotionally, but legally. I wasn't just someone's daughter or widow anymore. I was a mother. I had to protect my children. I picked up the phone and called a lawyer. It wasn't about wealth. I didn't have much left in savings after the medical bills and single mom expenses, but I needed a will. I needed to be the kind of prepared that my parents never were. I named Megan, my closest friend from college, as the legal guardian for Noah and Lily if something ever happened to me. Megan, who showed up after Daniel died without asking, who sent diapers when I forgot to add them to my grocery list, who cried with me on the floor of my kitchen while the twins napped. Then, I did something even harder. I opened my phone, scrolled to Mom and Dad.
Blocked.
My hand trembled a little, but once the icons disappeared, I felt lighter. Like I'd just set down a weight I didn't even realize I'd been dragging behind me for years. That afternoon, Olivia and I sat in the living room. The twins were napping, the sun slanting through the windows, soft and golden. "Would you ever consider working part-time?" I asked her. "Not just for the kids.
For me.
I don't think I can go back to doing this alone." She didn't even pause. "I'd be honored." Her voice was so gentle, so sure, that my eyes welled up. That night, I slept more deeply than I had in months. I didn't wake up feeling haunted or angry. I felt safe. Over the next few weeks, something else changed. Jessica started showing up. At first, it was just little things, dropping off groceries, sitting with the twins while I showered. But gradually, the visits got longer and the conversations deeper. One afternoon, we sat folding laundry together while the kids played with their puzzles nearby. Jessica looked at me, guilt flickering in her eyes. "I used to think you just didn't try hard enough," she said. "That's what they always told me. That you were moody, ungrateful, and selfish." I swallowed hard. "And I thought you had it all. Attention, praise, help. I thought you were the golden child, and I was the screw-up." She nodded slowly. Maybe we were both lied to. That sentence broke something open inside me. For so long, I'd seen Jessica as the enemy, the favorite. But now I realized she'd been manipulated too, just differently. The guilt didn't vanish overnight. Some nights, I'd still wake up wondering if I was cruel, if I'd gone too far by cutting them off. But then I'd remember that night in the hospital. Their voices, their indifference, the way they chose a concert over my life. I'd pull Noah and Lily closer to me, kiss their heads, and know I was finally doing what was right. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was healing. Then came the rainy Thursday morning. Olivia had taken the twins for a walk around the park to give me some quiet time. I was curled on the couch with a blanket and a warm mug of tea, staring out at the misted windows, when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, my mother stood there, holding a half-wilted bouquet of carnations, and my father lingered a few feet behind her with his hands shoved in his pockets. My breath caught. "What are you doing here?" My mother's voice was sugar-coated concern. "We heard you were out of the hospital. We just wanted to see how you were doing." I didn't step back. "You could have asked when I called you from the ER, but you chose a concert instead." Her smile faltered. "That's not fair, Alina. We didn't know how serious it was." My father cleared his throat. "Look, it's been a tough few weeks. We just need to get back on the same page. The money transfers. Can we talk about when they'll resume?" I blinked. "Are you kidding me? You're standing here asking about money? Not my health. Not your grandkids. Just the deposits." My mother's tone turned sour. "Well, we've built our lives around that income. The mortgage, the timeshare." I cut her off. Calmly. Coldly. "Then maybe you shouldn't have retired at 56 with no savings and 2 luxury cars in the driveway." I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I just stepped back and said, "I'm done. You're not welcome here anymore." And I closed the door. I thought that would be the end of it. But the next afternoon, they came back with backup. Aunt Patty, the peacekeeper, the woman who thought every problem could be fixed with a slice of pie and a heart-to-heart. I respected her, so I let them in. She sat across from me while my parents hovered awkwardly in the background. "Honey," she began gently, "they told me you were having a tough time. That maybe there was some misunderstanding." I took a deep breath. "There's no misunderstanding. For 3 years, I gave them $2,500 a month while raising 2 toddlers and mourning my husband. When I needed them most, when I was bleeding in a hospital, they abandoned me. And now, they're here for more." Aunt Patty's face fell. "You paid them? I thought they were helping you." I almost laughed. "They never helped me. Not once. Not after Daniel died." Not when the twins were born. Not when I needed surgery. Never. My father's face turned red with anger. You're twisting things. Making us look like villains. I met his eyes.
No.
I'm just telling the truth. That night, I thought it was over. But then the email arrived. Subject: Our daughter has turned her back on us. It was a mass message. My father had sent it to nearly every relative in his contact list. He painted me as cold, ungrateful, and selfish. Claimed I had abandoned them. Said they were heartbroken and destitute, and that their daughter had left them in their old age without a care in the world. I stared at the screen in disbelief. The lies weren't new, but the public smear campaign? That was. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of what people would think, because I knew the truth, and I wasn't staying quiet anymore. I stared at the screen, stunned. I knew my father had a flair for theatrics, but blasting that email to half our family still managed to knock the air out of me. The subject line, "Our daughter has turned her back on us," felt like an accusation carved in stone. But before I could even form a response, something unexpected happened. The replies started rolling in, but not to me. No one was demanding explanations or condemning me. Instead, the spotlight shifted. And it wasn't flattering for them. One cousin replied, "Didn't they just take a cruise last month? All-inclusive, right? Pretty sure I saw the photos." Another chimed in, "2 weeks ago, they were at a casino in Reno. Dad saw them at the poker table." Then came the screenshots, receipts, quite literally. Pictures of my mother flashing a diamond bracelet on Instagram. My father holding up a cocktail on a boat with the hashtag retired life. A LinkedIn post from one of Dad's former coworkers. So happy for Steve finally living it up in retirement. The evidence spoke louder than I ever could. Then Jessica called. "I saw the email," she said, her voice heavy. "I had no idea he'd go that far. I'm so sorry, Alina." But she didn't just apologize, she showed up. She came over that night with takeout, sat across from me at the kitchen table, and helped me draft a message.
Short. Clear.
Unapologetic. I want to thank everyone who's reached out. I've chosen to step back from a relationship that has been financially and emotionally draining for years. I nearly died alone in a hospital bed while my parents were at a concert I paid for. I wish them peace, but I won't carry the burden of their choices any longer. That was it. No drama. Just the truth. Polished like glass but sharp at the edges. And something amazing happened. Support began to pour in. Aunt Patty, bless her heart, dropped off a casserole the next day with a handwritten note. "I had no idea. You're doing the right thing." My cousin Marie called to offer a weekend with the twins so I could rest and recharge. Messages came in from friends I hadn't spoken to in months. "You're not wrong. You're strong. You're brave." That's when I realized silence had been my enemy for years. Hiding the truth, minimizing the hurt, pretending everything was fine, it only gave their lies room to thrive. But now that the truth was out, the isolation lifted. The shame lost its grip. I had drawn a boundary. And instead of the world collapsing, it unfolded. Spring arrived with warmth and light, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was dragging my life behind me. I was walking forward in it. One day, after putting the twins down for their nap, I sat at my laptop and logged into a virtual support group for widowed parents. I wasn't sure what I was hoping for, maybe connection, maybe understanding. What I found was both. These weren't people who pitied me. They were people who got it. And that's where I met Diana. She was a single mom, too. Her husband had died of cancer 3 years earlier. We exchanged messages after the meeting and hit it off instantly. A week later, she showed up on my doorstep with iced coffees in hand, her smile easy and warm. While the twins played with blocks in the living room, she asked, "Have you ever thought about selling this place?" I paused. The apartment had seen so much. Daniel's laughter, my tears, nights pacing with crying babies, mornings of hope, evenings of exhaustion. It held love, but it also held shadows. "Honestly," I said, "I've thought about it a lot." Diana leaned back. "Then let me help." Within 6 weeks, the apartment was listed, shown, and sold. Diana guided me through every form, every offer, every doubt. She even found a cozy little house with a fenced-in yard, 10 minutes from a park and walking distance to a preschool. The day we moved in, Lily ran circles around the empty living room, squealing with joy. Noah pressed his face to the back window and shouted, "Swings," even though there weren't any yet. But we were home. Around the same time, an idea I'd tucked away began to grow. After Daniel died, I built a simple memorial website to share his story, photos, and messages. Some people from the support group had asked how I did it. That's when it clicked. Maybe others needed that kind of help, too. So I started small. Dearly Remembered, a boutique service for designing custom memorial websites. I ran it from the kitchen table, in between snack time and nap time, sometimes with Lily on my hip and Noah trying to help by hitting the spacebar. The first few clients came from the support group. Then referrals trickled in. Within 3 months, I had steady work and something I hadn't felt in years. Purpose. I was happy. Not just coping, happy. Then Jessica called again. "They're in trouble," she said, skipping any sugarcoating. "The house, our old one? They took out a second mortgage.
Kept spending like nothing changed.
Now they're 2 months from foreclosure." I didn't say anything. I just waited. "They're going to ask you for help," she added. "They need $144,000 to keep it."
She paused.
"I told them not to call you. I said it wasn't your responsibility anymore." But a week later, I got the email anyway. Long paragraphs. Dramatic apologies. Promises to do better. My mother's voice practically bled off the screen. "You don't know what it's like to be afraid of losing everything," she wrote. Oh, but I did. I remember that fear all too well. Counting coins at the grocery store, rationing formula, whispering to crying babies that things would be okay, even when I didn't believe it myself. I had lived it. Alone. I typed my response slowly, carefully. I know exactly what that fear feels like. I survived it alone. I rebuilt from nothing. I am not your solution anymore. No anger. No debate. Just a door, firmly closed. Jessica called the next day.
"They're stunned," she said.
"They thought you'd cave. But honestly, I'm proud of you." And life kept blooming. I painted the twins' bedroom with clouds and stars. I bought a secondhand swing set and watched them soar through the air, giggling like wild things. I trimmed back hours on my freelance work so I could make dinner before sundown and sit with them on the porch as they ate popsicles. The house felt full, not just with noise and toys and laundry, but with peace. The neighbors were kind. Helen brought over chocolate chip cookies and offered to babysit if I ever needed a break. Raj mowed the front lawn the first time he saw me struggling with the machine and didn't even wait for thanks. Another neighbor, Clarissa, brought over groceries just because. I hadn't known any of them a month earlier, but they treated me like I belonged. And maybe I finally did. Not to a toxic family dynamic. Not to old pain or old expectations. But to this moment. This life. This community. And for the first time in forever, I didn't feel like a burden. I felt like a mother. I felt like myself. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was fighting to prove I was worthy of love. I had stopped seeking validation from people who were never capable of giving it. I had created a life where I didn't have to beg to be seen. I was seen. I was supported. I was safe. And in that calm, I realized something I had never quite believed before. Collapse isn't always the end. Sometimes, it's the beginning of everything beautiful. The breakdown was necessary. It cleared space for something better, something real. It was a quiet Saturday morning when the envelope arrived. There was no return address, just my name written in a handwriting I hadn't seen in months. It sat in the mailbox among a few bills and a catalog, but it might as well have been glowing. I brought it inside, hands trembling slightly as I sat at the kitchen table. Noah and Lily were beside me, gleefully smearing peanut butter on toast, chatting to each other in their little twin language. Their laughter echoed through the small kitchen like music, grounding me. I stared at the envelope, turning it over once, twice. Then I opened it. Inside was a single folded sheet of stationery, the kind my mother used to save for thank you notes and birthday cards. Her handwriting had changed. It looked shakier now, uncertain, as though each letter had been weighed down by hesitation. Alina, I've been doing a lot of thinking. I know that doesn't erase what I said, or didn't say, when you needed us the most. But I need to say this anyway. I was jealous of how strong you were.
How independent you became.
I didn't know how to be your mother anymore, so I gave up trying.
I see that now.
And I regret it more than I can say. We are in therapy. Both of us. Your father is working part-time at a grocery store. We've lost a lot, but we're finally trying to become better people, not just better parents. I'm not asking for money. I'm not even asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know we're trying. I read it once. Then again. For the first time in years, I felt something unexpected. Stillness. Not rage. Not sorrow. Not even forgiveness. Just quiet. Later that day, Jessica called. She had no idea I'd received the letter already. They've changed, Alina, she said softly. It's slow, but it's real. They go to therapy twice a week. They talk about their mistakes. They're budgeting for the first time in their lives. Dad stocks shelves and comes home exhausted, but proud. They don't blame you anymore. They talk about what they did wrong. I didn't answer right away. It took me almost a month to decide. And when I finally agreed to meet, it was on my terms. A small cafe halfway between our towns. Neutral ground.
Public. Safe.
The morning of the meeting, I dressed in soft jeans and a sweater, nothing fancy. I didn't need armor. I wasn't walking into a fight. I was walking into clarity. When I arrived, they were already seated. No designer outfits. No heavy jewelry or smug smiles. Just two people who looked older than I remembered. Smaller. Worn down, not by circumstance, but perhaps by self-reflection. My father stood as I approached, then hesitated, unsure whether to reach for a hug or not. I gave him a small nod and sat down. The first few minutes were quiet. We sipped coffee. They asked about the twins. I answered, cautiously. Then my dad's eyes welled up. He looked at me like he had something heavy in his chest, and finally, he let it out. I failed you, he said. His voice cracked on the word failed. As a father. As a man. I made excuses. I let pride keep me from seeing you. Really seeing you. My mother was silent for a moment, then gently placed her trembling hands around her cup. Therapy has been hard. I've had to sit with things I wanted to bury. But the truth is, I leaned on you without ever asking what it cost you. I didn't raise you, I used you. And I hate that. I listened. I didn't interrupt. I let their words land where they needed to. When the silence settled again, I finally spoke. I appreciate the apology, I said, my voice even. But I'm not here to give you peace. I'm here to keep mine. I need boundaries. I need respect, not just as your daughter, but as their mother. I saw something shift in both of them. Understanding, maybe. Or just the realization that I wasn't the same person they once dismissed. I'm willing to allow brief, supervised visits, I continued. But if either of you ever disrespects me in front of my kids, that door closes for good. I'm not raising them to believe love is something you earn by sacrificing your dignity. My father nodded. He didn't flinch. We understand. We talked for another 20 minutes. About the twins, about my house, about the small business I'd started. They asked gentle questions and, more importantly, they listened. Listened. They didn't try to prove anything. Didn't try to guilt me. They simply took in what I shared with a quiet kind of reverence. When I stood to leave, my mother reached out. Not to pull me into a hug. Just to place her hand over mine for a brief moment. Thank you for this chance, she whispered. I didn't say, you're welcome. I didn't say anything at all. I just gave a small nod and walked away. Outside, the afternoon sun had dipped low in the sky. Long shadows stretched across the sidewalk as I stepped out into the golden light. I took a deep breath. The air was crisp and cool. My heartbeat was steady. I wasn't walking away as a wounded child anymore. I was a woman. A mother. Someone who had crawled through the darkest moments of her life with nothing but grit and hope and two small hands in her own. I wasn't chasing their love anymore. I was building something far stronger. And for the first time in forever, I felt completely, unapologetically at peace.